Hello and welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we have a ton to cover. We're going to talk about the Monday Night Football game between the Lions and the 49ers. We're going to preview week 18. We're probably going to skip quickly through some games that don't matter. There's a lot of games that there was just not even worth taking notes for. But the main thing we will start with today is the college football playoff recap. Round two is in the books. I know last time we talked about round one a week ago. We basically didn't talk about any of the games individually. I'm going to try to stay on topic with the games as we've done the fucking deal over and over and over. And this week it honestly didn't matter. Thank God. But yeah, we'll start with Boise State. This is a situation where I think if I do want to talk a little bit more broad about the actual bracket itself and how it's formatted, everybody agrees it's not formatted correctly, and other teams should have gotten buys, whatever. I think it. I think the easiest way to not solve this, but what they could have done is just make these second round games also home games. Make the
I said that
semifinals.
a while
Did you
ago.
say that?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
thought
don't
you said
think
you
you
were.
were a fan of it.
No, you were trying to get rid of all the bowls. I still want to keep the bowls for the
No.
final three.
No,
I'm
I just
saying you
no.
didn't want the bowls to be in the playoff. You wanted the bowls to be other
No, I still
games.
wanted Bulls in the playoffs. I just didn't want the second round to also be Bulls.
I remember you saying that you wanted bowls in for like the regular teams who didn't make it to play in the big bowl games. I could have sworn you said that.
No, I don't think so.
All right,
Because I
maybe
still
I'm wrong
want
then.
I still want like the final four to be bowl games because they kind of have to be.
Those, yes, I agree. Even if it's not bowl games, neutral site, obviously. But I think I do agree now. I think the second round games should be home games. I just think it makes the most sense, and that's just for teams. If you're gonna have like a couple teams that have to play in the first round that are just as good, if not better, than the teams who have buys, then you at least avoid the Oregon situation. But hopefully, we completely reformat the bracket and don't get into that situation again. But regardless, we'll start with Penn State
Yeah.
beating Boise State 31-14. A lot of people expected this going in. A lot of people bet the cover for Boise State. Not as much as you would think, but I mean, on Twitter it feels that way. I guess maybe it's the whole Genty Boise State thing might just be like a Twitter thing where it feels
Yeah.
like everybody thinks Boise State and Genty are like underrated powerhouse. But I'm not saying they're not, but I
I
mean
think
they
they were a
weren't
great team. Yeah.
it was tough in this game for them. They kept it on the scoreboard close, but it didn't really feel close. Aller was solid in this game. He didn't have to throw it a ton. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton were phenomenal. They were able to run the ball 41 times in this game on Boise State, which is super impressive. Genty still gets his 100. He does have a couple fumbles. Only one of them does get recovered, fortunately for them, but a couple fumbles early on too were tough for him. Maybe it was a little bit of nerves. His biggest game of his career. He ended up finishing with a fine game though. Not his yards per carry that he'd want. 30 for 100 is pretty low for him, but he was still able to do some damage. The Boise State passing offense was just really the biggest problem. Boise State doesn't have the playmakers on the outside that a team like Penn State does defensively, and their playmakers on the outside were just able to lock up Boise State. Boise State's really been so good this year, not just because of Genty, but how good their offensive line has been. It's been able to open up that downfield stuff occasionally for them, but in a game where they needed the downfield stuff and they didn't have a dominant run game, you saw it kind of bite them in the ass here. But big game, James. I don't classify this as a big game still because they were double-digit favorites in this game. The next game, though, against Notre Dame is a big game, so we'll see if he could live up to his moniker.
Yeah, we see we'll talk about all four of these games here soon. Well, we will talk about them, but we see all of the top four seeds that get a bye, all of them lose. And I mean, I had brought that up, I'm pretty sure, and I know I brought it up in one of the previews saying that the second round should be home games, or some of the teams who have the bye almost want to just get a home game like Arizona State. Like Arizona State deserves a home game. If that game was in Arizona State, who knows? Maybe they find a way to squeak by Texas, but that was a great game. But here, Boise State just didn't really have it from the start. Penn State had too much firepower, like you said. Katron Allen and Nick Singleton is just such a great backfield for them. They're able to run the ball for 216 yards. And then Tyler Warren is probably the best tight end in the country right now. He's fantastic. He gets two touchdowns. He was those three guys, Aller, and then the two running backs, and Warren, were just what put Penn State ahead in this game. Gents, like you said, the two fumbles didn't help. They only lose one. Maddox Madsen passed the ball pretty well. He throws for over 300 yards, but three interceptions doesn't help. The four turnovers total for Boise is really what killed them. They actually, I'm pretty sure, had more total yards than Penn State in this game. Just couldn't get the ball in the end zone, and the turnovers killed them. So I don't think they were outmatched in this game. This was pretty close for most of the game. That touchdown late for Penn State put it away, but I think Boise State held their own. They showed that they were deserving of the playoff no matter what, and I think they were one of the 12 best teams in the country.
Okay, we'll move on here to Texas beating Arizona State 39-31. I actually think the second round home game thing benefits teams like that have dominant home field advantage. Not saying Arizona State doesn't, but I think it benefits a team like Oregon more because if you looked at the crowd this game, it's not like Texas completely overpowered them. Like they had a
No,
decent
no.
amount of fans
You
there.
could hear the Arizona State's got a good fan base.
Yeah, it felt
And
like a neutral site game. It didn't feel
even
like
Boise
Texas got
State, if
anything.
Boise State has a home game, that's a tough place to play, especially a playoff game on a blue field.
That would be crazy. That would make it maybe a big game for
Yeah,
for
for
James.
James.
But Texas wins this game, double overtime. This was the best game of the playoffs so far. Obviously, Texas came out. They punched him in the mouth early. Quinn Ewers was slinging it. They didn't have much of a run game this entire game here. Just 53 yards on the ground on 30 attempts, which is very unimpressive. Golden was phenomenal, 7 for 150 and a touchdown. And Texas took a giant lead. And then fourth quarter comes around, and Scottaboo was good for most of this game, but fourth quarter especially, he was phenomenal. He finishes with almost 300 all-purpose yards, which is just crazy, and three total touchdowns. He really established himself as one of the best players in college football. There were a lot of people that haven't been watching college football that didn't know how good he was. Did he have probably the best game of his career in this game? Yes, but still there were a lot of people who didn't know his name that now do. This is going to just shoot his draft stock up regardless. They force double overtime in this one. They have a chance in overtime where it's 4th and 13. They have their touchdown already. They just needed to stop on 4th and 13. Quinn Ewers throws a touchdown, gets the ball back, throws another touchdown, pick for Arizona State, and the ball game's over. So it sucks for them. They were absolutely in this game. They could have won it. Texas, their defense was great for this entire game until the very, very end. They only allowed 8 points in the first three quarters. We know what their defense is. Their offense is concerning sometimes when they just can't move the ball. It stems from them sometimes struggling on the ground. They're usually decent in the air. They were great in the air in this game, couldn't run the ball. They're gonna have to figure out how to run the ball against Ohio State, which is a tough matchup for them. It's kind of crazy to see them as 6 point dogs in the second round or third round to Ohio State, but I think Ohio State matches pretty well with them. We'll talk about Ohio State in a bit here.
Yeah, Ohio State's just on fire right now. Arizona State stayed in this game. Cam Scatterby, like you said, got him back in it. He has a fantastic game, two touchdowns running, one touchdown passing. Could have had another huge play in the receiving game where we saw defensive pass interference and then a face mask call on Scadwood that looked like the only way to bring him down was to grab him by the face mask. He was just the best player in this game by far. Quinn Ewers, like you said, that 4th and 13 was a huge play. Arizona sent a blitz. The protection was fantastic by Texas, and they end up getting the stop and or well, getting stopping the blitz and getting the touchdown pass. That was just a great play. Sam Levitt was solid in this game. That one interception there does hurt him, but I thought he looked competent. He is still a redshirt freshman. I think this Arizona State team is going to be good in the future. But Cam Scatterby, like you said, he was the story of this game, the best player. Just looking at some of the draft grades that people had on him even before this game, just looking at him like a role, a backup running back, all this stuff. I hope this really helps show how great he is, and I think he can be a great NFL running back. But um, he's been doubted, I guess, in high school. Had a massive high school career, and no one really scouted him, and now he has a huge college career, and still the NFL doubts him. So I think he'll find his way in the NFL. But he was great in this game and almost willed Arizona State to this win.
He's like a smaller Austin Eckler a little bit.
Yeah,
That'd be my comp for him. Hard to
yeah,
tackle, can do it all. I don't
yeah,
know if Austin Eckler's ever thrown a touchdown, but I feel like that's something he
yeah,
may have done at some point.
yeah.
Um, we can move
Very
on
hard
here.
to tackle, though, man.
Yeah, yeah, extremely hard to tie. And so is Eckler, but or was Eckler, I should say. But moving on here to Ohio State beating Oregon 41-21. Will Howard was great in this game. 319, three touchdowns, no picks. They were able to run all over him with Judkins and Henderson, one of the better running back pairs in in college football right now. It's going to be crazy if we could see them up against Notre Dame in the championship. Just four phenomenal running backs in that game. Jeremiah Smith was the story though, 7 for 187 and two touchdowns. He looked like Megatron out there in this game. He was just phenomenal. The Ohio State team loves having one receiver go off in this Rose Bowl game. We saw it with JSN a few years ago. We see it with Jeremiah Smith here on Saturday or what day was that? Wednesday on Wednesday. Um, yeah, Oregon though, it's tough. I mean, this is my first time looking at the box score with after seeing the game.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel actually finished with negative 43 rushing yards. They counted those.
I
That's
can The
crazy.
rushing yard total that I'm looking at right now is
Yeah,
absurd.
28 carries for negative 23 is wild. I mean, they were down by so much in this game they didn't even really get to run the ball, so it's a little deceiving. But Dylan Gabriel, he had a fine game. They just weren't able to get first downs early, and that was the problem for them. They had to keep giving the ball to Ohio State, who couldn't be stopped. They go and they put up 34 in the first half. They lead this game, I believe, 34 to nothing at one point. They were just dominant. And when you get into a situation like that, if you're Oregon, where you have to completely eliminate a part of your offense because you have to score points and you can't afford to play how you maybe wanted to play against this Ohio State team, you get in a situation where you have to pass the ball a million times, and that's how you that's how you lose to an offense this good and a defense that we know is probably the best in college football. I'd be willing to say in Ohio State, and if they're going to go and put up 34 points on you in the first half, I don't think there's a team in the country that could beat them. So very unfortunate for Oregon's defense; they weren't able to get a stop there. Uh, Landing said it wasn't their day; it wasn't Ohio State's day against Michigan, and that's just what it is. And that's another reason why I love the 12 team playoff is because you get a team like Ohio State who lost to Michigan and wouldn't be in the playoff last year. And they weren't in the playoff last year because of that reason. And now they're in here and they are playing the best football of any team in college football right now. So now you get a chance to see this team win, and we might see an 8 seed win in the very first college football playoff, which they're not an 8 seed, but still, regardless, it's going to be cool to see. I love this Ohio State team. I love my future on them at plus 500, even though I lost Georgia a little bit earlier. But I'm excited to see them. And like I said, I think they match up really well against that Texas team.
Yeah, I think they match up great. This is the Ohio State team that we just expected to see all season. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see this against Michigan. This is another, like you said, this is the reason why they expanded the playoffs to get teams like Ohio State the chance. They wouldn't have been in under last year's format, and now they're looking like the hottest team in the country. I saw people saying that this playoff is rewarding not the best team, but just the hottest team at the current moment. Isn't that kind of what every playoff is? Rewards the hottest team in the playoffs,
That's just
basically.
sports.
Yeah, that's just how sports go. Will Howard was fantastic in this game. 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were able to run the ball. If this Ohio State team is able to put up 34 points, I think in general they should win almost every game with how good their defense is. They have, I think, the most expensive roster in college football with all of their NIL deals. They have freshmen like Jeremiah Smith who can go off. They had Emeka Buka come back. He has a solid game here with a touchdown as well. They were just unstoppable on offense for that first half. It was just a clinic. Dan Lanning continued to punt every single time they got the ball. Sometimes you almost got to try to go for it on fourth to maybe change the momentum because Ohio State was just simply unstoppable in that first half. But they couldn't get it done, and just a big win for Ryan Day. They needed this one. If they can go and beat Texas, put themselves in the championship and win it, everything that people have said about firing Ryan Day pretty much kind of already has to be dismissed now with how this team has performed in the playoff. But this is a great roster. They're dangerous. Um, I see them beating Texas almost no matter what, but they still got to go out there and prove it. That game's going to be the Cotton Bowl. That's in Texas. That's going to be a rough place to play, but they're on fire right now. Where Texas, I feel like, is reeling a little bit. So just a dominant win, and unfortunate for Oregon that they had to go up against maybe the hottest team that quickly.
And Ryan Day is now 2 games away from stealing home after being born on third base, which is the
Yeah.
thing that they've said about him for a long time. And I think I'd be happy to see that happen. But don't we also can't forget his rivalry with Notre Dame. Because
Oh
who was
yeah,
it?
Lou Holtz.
Lou Holtz. Yeah, where's Lou Holtz now? Or I'd like to see what Lou Holtz is saying now.
That'd be a great national. That's
That'd
what
be
I'm rooting for,
crazy.
obviously, but
That
for
would be.
obvious
I
reasons.
would love him to drop that line if they win that game. He is 1
Yeah.
0 against Notre Dame, and that's great.
Marcus Freeman's not going to let that happen though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. What number did you get Notre Dame at? 700, 800?
Um,
It's got to be somewhere up there.
I think I had what Ohio State at 500, and
Yeah.
I have. Let's see. I'm feeling very good about the
And Ohio State
championship.
went from
Just
500 to like 130 after that Tennessee game.
wow, I didn't. That's pretty. Plus 750.
750, yeah. That would be nice.
It's feeling pretty good
Maybe
right
you
now.
cash out Ohio State if they make it to the championship with Notre Dame and put all that money on Notre Dame.
I don't know what the odds are now.
Because
For
Notre
I
Dame
don't,
will be dogs in that game if that happens.
Notre Dame's the second at plus 380 now. So
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. They're not going to believe. No way Vegas is going to believe in big game James at this point. You can't expect it. But We'll finish off here talking about Notre Dame. They beat Georgia 23-10. This wasn't the most stunning Notre Dame offensive performance we've ever seen, but they were able to do exactly what they needed to do to win this game on the defensive end. Biggest point of this game really was them kicking a field goal to go up 6-3. First play for Gunnar Stockton, strip sack, Notre Dame touchdown on the next play. And then it was to the point where, I mean, Georgia doesn't even get to 13 points in this game, so the game was essentially over at that point. But Notre Dame, they did have to punt it a decent amount in this game, but they were able to get key first downs when they had to. They were fine with settling for field goals. They make three field goals in this game. They scored to end the second half, and then they score in the third quarter, which is huge in a game where Georgia just couldn't move the ball, couldn't run the ball at all. Trevor Etienne goes for just 38 yards on 11 attempts, really putting all the pressure on a freshman quarterback in his very first game starting in Gunnar Stockton, which he wasn't bad in this game, but the lights were just too bright for him. There's nothing he really could have done. He had no run game. He had to be the hero, and he fumbles a couple times. He doesn't throw any interceptions, which is good for him, but unfortunate for Georgia. I'm not gonna come on here and say that I think they would have won this game with Carson Beck because I placed my Georgia future feeling like Carson Beck isn't the best quarterback, even close to the best quarterback in these playoffs. So I think you can plug and play a different quarterback and they still have just as good of a chance. So I'm definitely not going to say that I think they would have won this game with Carson Beck. I think it could have been more competitive if you have a more experienced quarterback in there like Carson Beck. I think maybe we see a much closer game here, but Notre Dame was the better team on Wednesday and or Thursday and they got it done.
They were the better team. They got it done, and the big bad SEC was a 4th and 13 away from not having a team in the semifinals. Gunnar Stockton, I didn't think he played terrible in this game. 234 yards, a touchdown, didn't throw an interception. Really, just the lack of a run game from Georgia is really what killed them here. Only 62 yards on the ground. Couldn't get anything going with Trevor Etienne or Nate Frazier. Etienne, I'm pretty sure, has a fumble that they lost, which was his first fumble all season. Notre Dame was able to capitalize on that fumble. I think they got well, it was just a fumble in Georgia territory. They didn't get any points there, and the turnovers was the key story. That strip sack led to a quick Notre Dame touchdown, a special teams touchdown on a huge kickoff return to start the second half was huge. Notre Dame really just didn't turn the ball over. They ran the ball well. They were able to bleed the clock, dominate time of possession, especially in that fourth quarter. It looked like I think it was a 7 minute drive. Just a huge game from Riley Leonard on the ground, 80 yards. They didn't really have Jadarian Price play great. We saw Jeremiah Love get a little injured in that game. Hopefully he'll be okay to go for the next round. But just a dominant win. That Notre Dame defense was fantastic. They stopped the run like they've been doing all season. They've been one of the best teams against the run in the entire country. They've been great against the pass as well, but they stopped the run, and that was the key to the game. So Notre Dame gets that big win that they've been waiting for. They finally don't get blown out in a college football playoff game, and they get the win. So good for the Fighting Irish.
Okay, we can do a quick prediction for who we think is going to be in the national championship. I'm obviously going to say Ohio State, but I something is telling me that he gets over the hump here, and I think Penn State beats Notre Dame, makes the national title game. Are they? They're not favorites in that, are they?
I
What are
think I
you?
think Notre Dame's a 1.5 point favorite.
Okay, yeah, I like Penn State money line. I think that game can go either way though. Penn State's just been so impressive these playoffs. I know they haven't played the best teams, but regardless. They looked great against SMU and they looked great against Boise State.
Yeah, I'm going with Notre Dame, Ohio State. I just like this Notre Dame team right now. I think their defense is fantastic. They can stop the run. I think they slow down Katron Allen, force the ball into Drew Allar's hands, and I think he can be prone to make a mistake and turn the ball over. And I think we see that happen with Notre Dame. And then Ohio State, I think they're just maybe the most talented team in the country right now. I think they go out, dominate that game, and we get a Notre Dame Ohio State championship, which is kind of brutal as a Michigan State fan. But I'd rather see Notre Dame win out of those two at this point. So I think
What
we
about
get
the
Notre Dame, Ohio
megaphone?
State. I mean, the megaphone, but we haven't really played them in like 6, 7 years. So
Who currently has the megaphone? Them.
they do, yeah.
Man, 7 years without the megaphone is brutal.
We'll get it back here one day. We just need a coach that's willing to schedule them.
And cooperate off field, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. We can move on now to the Monday Night Football recap on Friday. It's a little bit late here, but regardless, we'll get it done. Lions win this game against the Niners 40-34. Niners came out and punched them in the mouth in this game. Fred Warner was talking about hurting players before the game, so that was cool, I guess. They came out, excuse me, they came out giving helmet to helmet hits off rip. The San Francisco defense, they are a little bit beat up in the secondary. Most of their injuries are on offense. They had most of their best players on defense aside of Dre Greenlaw. They still had Nick Bosa. D. Winters has been playing good ball for them. Hufanga, they still have Fred Warner, Malik Mustafa, which he is an absolute stud. That dude hits like a truck, number 6 on the 49ers. He's really, really good. But the Niners offense was able to move all over the Lions defense for the entire first half of this game. You see Ricky Pearsall have a career day, 141, 8 catches. Kittle goes 8 catches, 112. Purdy looked really good in this game until he got hurt in the last drive of the game. But it just came down to the Lions offense being the best in football right now. They're able to go score 40 on whoever, whenever. I'm hoping they're able to do it this Sunday. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But they got it done in this game. Gibbs was phenomenal. He goes for 117 on the ground, and he has, what did he finish with in the air? 46 in the air. Jamison Williams, 77 yards receiving with a touchdown. He had two touchdowns in this game as he had a rushing one as well early on. He was really, really good. He's one of those guys, you just got to get the ball in his hands. Ben Johnson knows that. The Lions have been doing that, especially here towards the back end of the season. He's, ever since I started seeing the screenshots about Addison having better stats, that has really switched up. Jameson Williams has moved up in those rankings, and he's one of the better wide receiver twos in football right now. He's dangerous. He's a guy that you really have to account for in the playoffs. And when the Lions have so many other playmakers like Gibbs, Laporta, Amon-Ra, it's hard to game plan as hard as you want for a guy like Jameson Williams. And then that's when he beats you over the top when you have an offensive coordinator like Ben Johnson. But all the credit to the 49ers here. They're a team that has a lot of talent. They've been very beat up too. They're in that category with the Lions of the most beat up teams. They were not able to overcome it this year, but they still have a head coach in Shanahan who's going to be able to get it done. He's one of the better coaches in football. All the firing him bullshit is just stupid. They shouldn't do that. I know Lynch was pissed off up there, but they shouldn't do that. They still have a good home field advantage. I think Brock Purdy's still a good quarterback in this league. We'll see what they do with him at the end of the year contract wise. Maybe he goes to a new team. Maybe they give him a smaller extension, like a Baker Mayfield-esque deal. But yeah, we'll see. I think the Niners deserve a lot of credit, and the Lions set up maybe the biggest regular season game of all time.
Yeah, this is a huge, huge game next week, but here we just see the Lions. Defense struggled a lot in the first half, but the offense really picked it up in the second half. The defense looked better in that second half. They have so many injuries that's going to happen, and they were able to win this game. Jahmyr Gibbs was obviously fantastic in this game. Did wonders to a lot of fantasy owners around the world and won a couple championships, one for me specifically. But he gets 117 yards on the ground and a touchdown, like you said. He was great. The touchdown was electric. Jared Goff has another 300 plus 3 touchdown game. Great from him, and he got the ball to Jamison Williams, like you said, and Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra all get a receiving touchdown. Brock Purdy looked fantastic in the first half, very good, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions he had in that second half really hurt the Niners, let the Lions get back in the game and take the lead. They couldn't run the ball. Obviously, they still are missing their guys, but we see a huge game from Ricky Pearsall, who missed the early part of the season with that unfortunate, um, I guess, when he got shot in the chest. But he's able to recover, and now he's
It's a
looking.
weird way to say that.
Yeah, I kind of just didn't know how to. Because I was gonna say
And it
injury,
was
and I don't know if you can.
unfortunate when he got shot in the chest with a pause.
I was gonna say injury, and then I'm like, I don't know if it.
Yeah,
I don't know, but he was
I feel
great in
you.
this game. 141 yards and a touchdown, 8 receptions after missing most of his rookie season, so he was great. And then we see Kittle get 112 yards and 8 catches as well. But just disappointing season as a whole from the Niners, and the Lions pick up another win in a game that really didn't matter to them, and they finish undefeated on the road. So big time.
Don't forget they're in with a tie now. Don't forget that.
Yeah,
Um,
that was why they started all their starters, which I'm
right,
very thankful for.
right. It's a Dan Campbell thing. There's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, I would have been heated if one of our best players got hurt in this game, but I mean, they had no injuries, which is just unbelievable. This is the game that would have no
Yeah.
injuries. And Kirby Joseph also gets 2 picks in this game. He leads the league
Oh,
in nine
yeah.
interceptions and is did not make the Pro Bowl. So
Yeah, and for the
third in DVOA
Niners,
odds and didn't make the.
Jake Moody, rough year. He misses 2 kicks in this
Yeah.
one.
Oh,
Unfortunate for him. And that reminds me of we didn't mention Arizona State and Texas game where the Texas had
Yes,
chances to
yes.
win with their field goal kicker. He struggled. Burt Auburn missed two chances at a game-winning field goal
Come on,
and
Bert.
got iced by the Arizona State cheerleaders. So
And that's a situation where it just doesn't get talked about because they win.
yeah,
If they
exactly.
lose, that's like the only story.
If they lose, the Arizona State cheerleaders might go into the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
which
honestly, good for them, I guess. All right, I guess we could start our preview now for Week 18 of the NFL season. There's a lot of games on here that don't mean anything. There are some that just mean something for one team, so we will get through it. We'll start with Browns at Ravens Saturday night or Saturday evening, I believe, football. There's two AFC North games on Saturday. Ravens open up as the biggest favorites of the season at 18 points in this one. Last time I checked, I don't know what they're at now. 19 and a half. Oh my God. 19 and a
is
half point
horrendous.
favorites in this game with Bailey Zappi at quarterback. They need this win because they need to clinch the AFC North. They still have a chance to lose it if they lose this game somehow and then the Steelers win. It will be, like I said, Bailey Zappi. I thought it was going to be DTR until like 5 minutes before recording, and I had written down he might be the worst quarterback in football, so I was taking the Ravens at any spread. Now I'm a little bit indifferent about it because there's a chance the Ravens get up big and they bench their starters in the second half. There's a chance that there's no film on Bailey Zappi this season, so maybe he does something special. Ravens' pass defense isn't great, so maybe they could pull off something in the secondary here. Browns' defense is playing much better, but the Ravens' offense just might be unstoppable right now. Baltimore has the second most sacks per game, despite a mid secondary, which is very impressive. They're able to get home that quick, not having a great coverage on the back end. They should dominate this Browns O line. I I loved this spread for the Ravens before, but at 19 and a half, I think I have to take the Browns.
Yeah, 19 and a half is just a massive number with any game, obviously. But Bailey Zappi starting for the Browns, 2-4 last season with the Patriots, 6 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Got released in August. As now we see Drake May is questionable. Interesting. Ravens must win game, like you said, to secure the division. Lamar Jackson's going to play. He needs 45 passing yards to become the first player in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards and have 800 rushing yards. So he should get that pretty easily. The Ravens will obviously win, so I wish I could just take him at minus 2,800, but we have to go on the spread. And 19 and a half is just a huge number. But I'm going to go with Ravens minus 19 and a half. They've dominated before. I think they do it again. Uh, yeah. Don't feel great about it at all.
All right, moving on here to the second one. Bengals at Steelers. Tomlin at home as a dog once again. Steelers still in play for the division here. Like I said, if the Ravens do somehow lose that game as 20-point favorites, Steelers are in a win and in situation. There's also a chance that the Steelers can drop a seed to the sixth seed if they lose this game and then the Chargers win. So they definitely want to win this game. The Bengals defense obviously needs to be a get right spot for the Steelers offense here, who has struggled for the past month or so. They're playing a defense that they should be able to score on, so we need to see that from them. If they don't score on this defense, then I'm very worried for the Steelers in the playoffs. Bengals, they've been much better on the road than at home this year. They've been road dogs. Steelers' pass defense has struggled, and their teammates have been pretty critical of Minka. They haven't said it directly, but everyone's talking about Minka in the media. The Steelers players are giving like weird, like insinuations of like, oh, there's 10 of us on defense doing our job, and if one guy doesn't, then we're in a tough spot. And it's seeming like they're talking about Minka. They need him to improve for this game. The NFL made this game on Saturday, so it means something, which it's going to mean something for both teams. So this will be very, very interesting to see. Neither team has had great pass rushes or great pass protections all year, so somebody needs to win that battle to win this game. Bengals have to hold on to the ball. Hopefully, Chase Brown is healthy. I think he is going to play in this game. I'm going to take the Bengals minus 1.5.
Yeah, the Bengals, they've been on fire recently. They need a lot of help to get in the playoffs. I think they hold their end of the stick and get the win in this game. Steelers have been struggling. Defense, we saw them allow Mahomes to get 320 passing yards a couple weeks ago. Defense hasn't been up to the task recently, and their offense has been struggling. They were missing George Pickens for a while, so I kind of understood they really had no weapons outside of him to make plays, but they had him back last week, and they continue to struggle. So with this being a second week back, they have no excuse anymore. I just think that Joe Burrow is going to continue to have his dominance. We see Jamar Chase going for the Triple Crown. He currently leads in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He'd become the fifth player to win the Triple Crown since 1970. He has a pretty significant league and lead in all three of those categories, so he most likely will win
Even
that Triple
receptions.
Crown. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Bengals have been better away from home. We talked about that early in the season, but that trend has continued. They're 7-1 against the spread on the road, 5-0 as the road favorite. I think they're going to continue to get it done, and I'm going to go Bengals. It's -2.5 now, so I got Bengals minus
Oh,
two
two
and a
and a
half.
half. Okay, well, yeah. The first three games I did these notes on were like 4 days ago, so I'm a little off on the spread. Are the Bills still 2.5 point favorites? Three.
Uh,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
3 point favorites now. Okay.
Receptions though, quickly, he has the lead by 8 over your guy Amon-Ra.
Monroe's too.
Yeah, with he has 117. Amon-Ra's got 109, and then Brock Bowers with 108.
So we need Amon Ra or Brock to have like a 15 catch game.
Yeah. Yards, Jefferson's down by 200, and touchdowns, McLaurin's down by 4. So that's the only one that's semi close.
Four isn't close though.
No.
Terry would have to get 5 touchdowns, and he would have to get zero. So
Amon Ra has 12 too, so
12 touchdowns.
yeah.
So he's five away as well, or four away.
Yeah. Yes.
There, I like that possibility. But moving on here, Amon Ra somehow takes all three in
Yeah.
week 18.
And then Mike Evans with 11 with 3 less
He has
games played.
11 touchdowns.
Yeah,
God
with
damn,
3 less games played.
ridiculous. Baker loves him, but Uh, Bills at Pats here. This is one of the ones I don't really want to talk about. Jared Mayo, possibly his last game. Like you said, Drake May might not play in this game. Bills are still slim favorites with all their backups. It's hard to preview these games with all the backups. Bills defense should still be really bad in this game. I can't see how they're going to get any better, but maybe if the who would it be? Jacoby Brissett, is he still healthy?
I think, yeah, I think so.
For some reason, I mean, he never came back, so I just kind of assumed he was out for the year. But now that I think about it, I don't think he was.
Yeah, I'd assume he's. Oh, Drake May's not expected to start now, so it must be more than just questionable.
Yeah, I guess
I
he's
don't I, I
also
don't I don't
questionable.
see the
Well, regardless, I don't
the
care who it
backup
is.
here.
It's Money Mitch for the Bills. Give me the Bills -3.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Bills minus two as well. We saw Mitch Trubisky with an electric, perfect passer rating. I don't know, but he had
Yep.
9 yards and 1 touchdown last week with 1 completion. I expect that to continue for the Bills here, and I just trust them to go out, dominate this game. It is in New England, which is different, but uh, I'm gonna say they just get it done. That wasn't Drake May that's doubtful, by the way. That's a different rookie. That's an offensive lineman.
Oh, Drake May
So
is
Drake
playing
May
then?
he's questionable with a hand injury, but
Hmm.
uh, I think the Patriots they probably want to lose this game to continue to boost that draft pick and continue to. Right now, they're looking at the number one overall pick. They want to get that so they can get their potential wide receiver one of the future, maybe cornerback one of the future, maybe both. So I'm gonna stick with Bills -3.
All right. Moving on here to Bears and Packers. This game is only meaningful for the Packers 6/7 seed race they're in right now, and then the Bears streak. The Bears have lost 10 straight games to Green Bay. In those 10 losses, they're losing by an average of 11 points per loss. So they're losing by double digits on average for 10 straight games to Green Bay. Just an insane stat. Green Bay's pass rush has been in the top 7 this year. They should be all over Caleb. The Bears were able to muck this game up last time, made it a 1 point loss on a blocked field goal. But the Packers offense is much better right now, in my opinion. We did get the news today. Jair Alexander probably out for the year unless he comes back for the Super Bowl, which is unlikely for the Packers. So that sucks. And knee swelling, he's been out for most of the year, though. Bears don't turn it over much, but the Packers do have the fourth most turnovers per game, or takeaways per game, I should say. Packers still have something to play for. The Bears do not. I think the Packers extend the win streak to 11 and keep the average above double digits.
Yeah, they have been dominating this rivalry for a long time now. Bears offensive line recently, pretty much all season, hasn't been great. Caleb Williams hasn't been great either. This is a chance to cap off his disappointing rookie season with a huge win against the biggest rival they have. Give hope for the future. This game is on the road in Green Bay. They do still have a lot to play for, like you said. I think they're going to go out. Jordan Love struggled last week, and I think he goes out and comes back and has a big game in Toyotathon. That was his first real bad game of Toyotathon in his career. So I think he comes back, gets it done. They should be able to move the ball well, run the ball with Josh Jacobs on the ground. They'd like to put away early and maybe rest some guys, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Bears are going to just stick in there and keep it close. Like you said, I think they maybe muck the game up again, but I'm going to go with the Packers to cover that 10-point spread. That is a huge spread, but I just don't trust the Bears offense right now at all, and I think the Packers are going to defense is going to shut down Caleb Williams again. So Packers minus 10.
Forgot to mention the Bears also have not won a road game this year, so they're at
Yeah,
risk of
so
going 0-8 at home or 0 on the road or 0-9 on the road. But
and
um,
finish with a what 11 game losing streak or
11 it'll be
12?
11 if they lose this one.
11.
Yeah, they've lost 10 straight, which is just absurd. But 4-2 to 4-13. Um, Giants at Eagles next game here. Eagles benching everybody in this game. Another game that doesn't mean anything. Saquon is not going to get his record, unfortunately, so Eric Dickerson can rest, knowing that his record will not be broken. I don't really buy into the Eagles letting the Giants win to screw their pick thing, especially after the Giants won last week. I don't think that's going to happen. Both Pickett and McKee played really good last week. I think it'll probably be McKee, right?
Yeah.
I would assume.
I'd assume they want to bench Pickett just in case as a keep him
Right.
as their backup.
Yeah, probably. Once again, though, impossible to evaluate guys that we don't see play like this game. I just cannot see the Giants fucking up their pick even more. I like the Eagles -3 on this one.
Kenny Pickett remained out of practice last week, so or yesterday, I mean. But I am seeing AP News saying Kenny Pickett versus Drew Lock, so I guess we'll just have to see. No matter what, I think the Eagles roster is more talented, even with a lot of their backups. A loss here for the Giants helps them ensure a top four pick, which should get them one of the two QBs. Just a lot. The win last week really did hurt them. Going as backups, if Drew Lock can stay hot, they can find a way to win this game. But I think someone's got to make a call and make sure that they do not win this game. They need to keep that top pick to get their quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Eagles -3 as well, but or Eagles -2.5 now. So yeah,
Okay, moving on here to Saints at Bucks. This game does mean something. The Bucks are in with a win. They win the division with a win. They open as 13.5 point favorites. Bucks also have a chance to move to the 3 seed as the Rams seem to not care at all
again,
for the second straight year. That we just got that tweet about who everybody was sitting, so we'll talk about that with the Rams. Don't understand that really, but the opposite of what Dan Campbell did, and we saw how they performed against Dan Campbell in recent years. But Bucks put 50 on this team in New Orleans earlier this year. New Orleans does not get many takeaways. If they want to play spoiler in this game, they're going to have to turn Baker over. I feel so dumb for not listening to my own advice to take Tampa to win the division 2 months ago. It felt like it was such a good bet then. They're easily the best team in this division. I got them to win by 13.5 in this game.
yeah, win clinches the NFC South, like you said. Their offense has been on fire. I think that's going to continue. It's up to a 14 points spread. Um, Mike Evans, we talked about how he has 11 touchdowns already in only 13 games. He's been great in that aspect. Also, only needs 85 yards to get to that 1,000-yard mark on the season. That would tie him with Jerry Rice for the most consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards at 11. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league for 11 straight years. Baker Mayfield can also, if he has a massive game, which I think he could have in here, if he throws for 5 touchdowns, he would break Tom Brady's touchdown record with the Buccaneers. That record's 43. I think he has 39 right now. He's been great this season, and I just love this Buccaneers -14 spread. This is one of the spreads that I do actually like. I think the Buccaneers are going to put up a lot of points in this game. I don't think the Saints are going to do that. 5 games since the bye, they've averaged only 11.4 points per game in those 5 games since the bye. Early in the season, they put up 50 a couple times. We thought they were going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. That was not the case at all. Obviously, a lot of things have happened. They've lost a lot of receivers. They've lost their quarterback, but just a disappointing season all around. We thought Clint Kubiak early in the season could be a potential huge head coaching candidate after 2 weeks. Couldn't have been more wrong there, but they've been missing a lot of guys, so got to give them that. But I love Buccaneers -14 here.
Okay, moving on to Texans at Titans, another game that doesn't matter. Titans are favored with the Texans backups in. Davis Mills is not a bad backup though. He should be getting the start here. Titans look to be playing all of their starters. Levis is going to be in. I think they perform well defensively in this game. I love the under in this game. I could genuinely see the Titans winning this game with their starters in, but they are just so bad at covering spreads. Titans defense, like I said, is still a solid unit. I think they're going to perform well against a mid offense and with their backups in. This is though the last chance I have to take the worst against the spread team ever, possibly. So I'm gonna take the Titans -1.5 and see if they can redeem themselves late here.
Yeah, I'm just going to continue to ride against the Titans spread. I took them way too many times in like the middle part of the season. Recently, I've picked against them every single time for that reason. Looks like Will Levis will be starting the regular season finale. Brian Callahan wants to give him another shot to play. He's earned the right, I guess, to play a little bit more football. The way he's handled it has been professional. I saw last week or towards early in the week, they said that it could potentially be just like a back and forth situation between Levis and Rudolph, but it looks like it's going to be more Levis here. If he does struggle, I expect them to probably put Mason Rudolph back in, which wouldn't shock me. But I'm going to go with Texans +1.5 and continue to go against the Titans. Davis Mills has a lot of career starts in his career. I guess not a lot, but a decent amount. He knows what he's doing. No tape on him this year. I think he could have a solid game, and maybe the Texans offense has a little bit of life. Game's probably going to be low scoring. You see the over/under set at only 36.5. That's just so low. But I'll go with Texans +1.5.
Okay, moving on here to Panthers at Falcons. Falcons desperately need this game and a Tampa Bay loss, like I said, to get in the playoffs here and win the division. Carolina has had a really bad run defense all year. Bijan should dominate in this game. Carolina's secondary and pass rush have gotten better. It's a big reason why they've been competing in these games. With the way Carolina's season has ended so far, and they've been such on a decent streak here, I expect them to go out and look to play spoiler in this game. Carolina is good offensively in the red zone. Atlanta's really bad down there defensively. Two of the worst pass rushers in football with Carolina and Atlanta with sack wise per game. One of them needs to find some success here. And I like Carolina to compete in their last game here and end the season on a high note. So I'm going to take the Panthers +8.
Yeah, I also expect them to finish the game on a high note. I think they could potentially win this game. They've been very good recently. Not very good, but they've been solid recently passing the ball. Bryce Young has made some great throws. Him and Adam Thielen have been great together. If Jalen Coker can get healthy and stay in the lineup, he can be good. I'd like to see Xavier Legette be a little bit better, but they're obviously missing Chuba Hubbard. He's out for the season. They don't really have that run game. I just think Bryce Young could play spoiler here. He's rebounded great throughout the season from that early season benching. I think he finishes the season on a high, gives the Panthers something to really look forward to next year and have a happy offseason knowing who their quarterback one is. For the Falcons, it's a must-win game, like you said. Michael Penix had a big drive last week that kept his team alive, forced overtime, but he still needs to prove that he's the guy for the future. He's going to probably be the starter next week, week one. The defense hasn't been up to the task recently. They've been struggling. We saw in the second half the Commanders just move the ball all over them. I think the Panthers are going to have a solid game, and I'm also picking Panthers +7.5.
All right, moving on here to Jags at Colts. This game truly does not matter at all. That's kind of why I like the Colts. Colts open up as 4.5 point favorites in this game. Bad back spasms for AR. I said they should probably bench him. They did. The news did come out about an hour ago. They are going to sit him. There's no reason for him to play with back spasms. They said he was like crawling around or some shit this week, so just no reason to make him go play out there. Colts have won 9 of the last 11 versus Jacksonville in Lucas Oil. They've been really good in that matchup. This was a shootout last time. I expect maybe something similar here. We'll see. Colts defense has to put together a better performance though after an embarrassing week last week. I think they have to bounce back from that. Similar to what we saw JT bounce back after that bad fumble against the Broncos. I think we see this team bounce back. It's hard for me to believe that these Colts players just don't have the pride to bounce back after what happened last week. I feel like they have to do what they have to do and win this game by a fairly decent margin. So I'm going to take the Colts -4.5.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Colts -4.5. I go back and forth. I think this game can either go two ways. First one is the Colts go out, dominate this game, have a great game on both sides of the ball. They don't really make too many changes in the offseason. They think they're close. Or they go out and the Jags kind of embarrass the Colts and they decide to make changes. I'd almost hope for that to happen. Something needs to change. A lot of reports have come out of the Colts that people don't know what direction this team's going, don't know what's going on. We see Pat McAfee just continue to go off on almost every single player, which is almost taking it a little too far at this point. There's some players who don't deserve as much hate as others, but Joe Flacco starting again for the Colts. He has had some good games, some bad games. I think he'll go out and have a solid one here against this Jags defense, which isn't fantastic. Mac Jones for the Jags has been solid. He can sling the ball in some random games. This could be a defense that he has success against. We saw Drew Lock last week have a big game. Brian Thomas Jr., I expect him to have a big game for the Jags on the offensive side of the ball. Finish his rookie season with a very, very huge high. But I'm going to pick Colts -4.5. We kind of own the Jags and Lucas Oil, and just hope that they still decide to make some changes, and they just need really just a culture change all around. So.
January
Yeah.
14th on Peacock, Diddy documentary, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. I don't know if you're interested in that, but um,
They've that's like what the third Diddy documentary already. They're
yeah, I don't
just
know. They're
throwing them out
they're
there.
cashing out on that, and it's like nowhere near over yet either. They're just getting them
Yeah,
out early, but
it's just started.
sets up for a part two, I guess. But Commanders at Cowboys. Commanders still playing for something, as they can lock up the sixth seed in this game. Sixth seed is very important. We talked about it a lot last episode, as the seven has to go into Philly. Cowboys, outside of last week, have played so well. They beat the Commanders earlier on in this run. Cowboys have been so bad at home, though, so I don't expect them to improve in that category. Cowboys' run defense has been so bad. The Commanders should have their way with this front seven. Washington's been great in the red zone. They face the league's worst red zone defense. Dallas allows touchdowns on 73.58% of red zone trips, which is like 7% worse than the next worst team. They're horrible down there. I like the Commanders -6.
I also like the Commanders -6. That's one of my favorite bets of the week as well. It's just another game where the game matters for one team. It really doesn't matter for the others. Those are kind of the games that really the only games that matter this week outside of the last one. A lot to play for still. Jane Daniels has most likely the rookie of the year at this point, a very solid rookie season, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Cliff Kingsbury's done a great job as his OC. They had a little bit of a slump in the middle of the season, but they've worked their way out of it. They've been very good recently. Last week they dominated in that second half. Defensively, they've had their struggles, but have been mid overall. They get to go against the Cowboys defense that's 31st in NFL opponent points per game. They also struggle against the run. They can get their revenge for that loss early in the season against Cooper Rush. Cowboys haven't been as good as at home, like you said, and I think this is a chance for the Commanders to go out there, dominate, prove that they're a playoff team, and send this Cowboys team into an off season. A Cowboys loss here would make me think there's a chance they fire Mike McCarthy. If they win, I'd say there's about a 0% chance they do. I don't think they do regardless at this point, but it's going to be interesting to see how their off season goes. They have a lot of holes on their team that they need to work on, and defensively, they just need to be a little bit stronger. They've had a better second half, but were terrible in the first half of the season, and I think the Commanders have a big day here.
Hey, Chiefs at Broncos, the next one here. Broncos need a win to get in. Chiefs benching all of their starters. I would not be shocked to see Carson Wentz show something usually, but this defense is very good. I feel like he's going to have a tough day. Biggest advantage for the Broncos is playing against an easier defense. Chiefs will still have some starters out there, but it should come easier for them. Bo Nix just has to hold on to the ball and not try to be a hero in this game. The Broncos have been good at home this year. They're 5-2 at home. I think they improve on that. But the Chiefs are not like the thing with the benching the starters thing, and I agree, like obviously it makes a big difference in some of these spreads, but you can only bench like five, six, seven guys. You can't
Yeah.
bench that many guys. So the best teams aren't going to be completely dismantled by it. I'm going to take the Chiefs +10.5 to cover, but I think the Broncos do win.
Yeah, I kind of feel a very similar way about this game. We see Carson Wentz still starting at quarterback for the Chiefs. I thought maybe they'd almost not even start him and start the third string, just keep him as their backup. But he will start for this game, and I think he can find a way to have a solid game against the Broncos. I think they stay in this game and make it interesting. Like you said, you can't bench your whole team. It's basically a must win for the Broncos to make the playoffs. A loss pretty much sends them home. They should be able to get it done, though. I trust Sean Payton to have the right guys out there to win the game. He's a great coach. He's done a phenomenal job with Bo Nix in his rookie season. A playoff appearance would be something that 2020, the August of 2024, us wouldn't have believed. But here they are with a chance to go out there and prove that. Is the moment too big for them? Maybe, but I still think they get it done, and I think they win the game. But I think the Chiefs keep it close. So I'm going Chiefs +12 at 10.5 at 2.
Moving on here to Dolphins and Jets. This game does not matter unless the Broncos happen to choke in that game that we just spoke of. It's a pick'em game in New York. Tua's out, and Dolphins are still favorites in this game. Rodgers knows this may be his last Jets game. I think he plays free, and I think he plays well in this game. Dolphins defense, regardless of weather, though, is very good. That should be a battle for them with Rodgers. Jets need to find some sort of resemblance of a run game. This is the last time I'm going to be able to say this, so I'll say that now. The worst Dolphins teams we have seen in recent years have been teams with Tua's backups and cold weather games, and that's both in this game, so I'm going to lean Jets.
I'm leaning Jets as well. With this being Aaron Rodgers' last game, him and Devontae Adams, this is our last chance to really pick Aaron Rodgers potentially. They get their one last dance, one last time. Part two, we saw their last dance in Green Bay, and now it's their last dance with the Jets. Division rivalry game is in New York. I expect them to just, find a way to win, hurt their draft pick. They seem to do that a lot. We saw the Giants do that last week, and the Jets have done that a lot recently as well. Some drama in the locker room. Players don't want to be there and are already planning on leaving in the offseason. With Tyler Huntley starting, I think he's a good backup. I think this just isn't a great system for him overall. He's better than Skylar Thompson, but I just think this Jets defense is going to do enough to get it done. And Aaron Rodgers' last game, he's going to go out there and sling the football. So I got the Jets plus half as well.
All right. Chargers at Raiders. This game only matters for the Chargers. With a win and a Steelers loss, they move to the 5 seed and they get to play Houston. If the Steelers do win against the Bengals, this game does end up meaning nothing for the Chargers. They won't drop. They'll be locked in the 6 seed. These teams have not played since week 1, which is crazy. Raiders were much healthier in that game than they are now, and they still lost that game by 12 points. Harbaugh's going to have to get his guys going, even against an underrated defense that the Raiders do have. They're ranked 11th in pass and rush defense this year, so they haven't been that bad. This is the league's worst red zone offense versus the best red zone defense here, so I think the Raiders are going to struggle to score. I like the Chargers to pursue this with a win versus the Bengals, but if not, I don't think they're going to try to pursue this win. I think the Bengals will beat the Steelers though, so for that reason, I'll take the Chargers minus 4.5.
Yeah, like you said, this game could potentially be meaningless, and if it is,
Harbaugh
I
might
don't
not bench
expect.
anybody though.
Yeah, I would expect a guy like J.K. Dobbins though to maybe get some
Yeah, yeah,
rest
yeah, yeah. But he better
because
bench him.
you absolutely need him for the playoffs regardless. I can also see them getting a big lead early and resting some of the guys late. I said Brock Bowers has 108 catches. The NFL record for receptions by tight ends is 116 by Zach Ertz, so he's only 8 catches away from tying the tight end reception record as a rookie. He's obviously been great this season. He deserves to be right there with Jaden Daniels for the offensive rookie of the year. I don't think in the odds market he is, but he definitely deserves to be in that. I think the Chargers go out in this game. If their starters are playing, I think they cover very easily. Otherwise, we've seen the Raiders the last 2 weeks cover and win. And I think AOC is a solid quarterback. He could win this game, but with it potentially mattering for the Chargers, I'm going to go Chargers minus 4.5 as well.
Okay, moving on here to Seahawks at Rams. Rams are punting a game here that they can actually lose a seed line in, which is just wild. I don't know if they're trying to do what they did last year and they're trying to potentially match up with the Lions or Vikings. I don't know why they would do that over playing against
Yeah,
probably Washington. That just doesn't make any sense unless they're trying to duck Green Bay, but that's like they're trying to play 3D chess then. That means
yeah.
they're thinking that Green
Um,
Bay's going to jump them. I don't really see
they
why they
must
would do that.
just be worried about themselves, I guess.
I guess, yeah. They're benching Stafford, Cup, Nakua, Kyron Williams, Larry Jackson, Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein in this game. It doesn't make any sense for them to do that, but they are, I guess. Jimmy G's getting the stats for that, or getting the start for them. He's not a bad backup. I don't believe in the Rams defense like everybody else does. I hate what the Seahawks did last week, but I think they will look a lot better offensively in this game. So I'm going to take the Seahawks minus 6.5.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks get this win almost regardless, but with all the benchings, uh, really it makes it just that more obvious. Geno Smith gets a $2 million bonus if the Seahawks win 10 games. A win here would get to that number, so I can see him getting that, and congratulations if he does. A win here would cap off a solid season for the Seahawks, getting to 10 wins. Saying that and them missing the playoffs is pretty impressive. That shows how deep the NFC is this year, even with one team, two teams really being tied at the top. Rams could clinch the 3 seed with a win, but it looks like they don't care. McVay's going to prioritize the health of his starters, getting Stafford healthy and Nakua healthy and Cup and all those guys, and the offensive line. Didn't work from last season. We'll see if it does here, but for this game, I think the Seahawks go out there and win this game pretty easily. I'm going Seahawks -6.5.
Okay, moving on here to 49ers at Cardinals. Cardinals are 4.5 point home favorites for the 49ers with Dobbs. People forget Dobbs is always dominant when he plays his first few games. We saw it in Arizona, we saw it in Minnesota last year. He's good in his first few. Niners, like we said, looked pretty good last week versus the Lions. They can maybe ride that momentum. They definitely have a coaching advantage in this matchup. Cardinals are a very tough team to watch, but they'll be in a decent spot in this game if they could stop them on the defensive end. Cardinals offense is really hard to watch. They need to try and expose this beat up secondary. I don't know if they're going to be able to. I just like the Niners in this game. I'm going to take them at +4.5.
Yeah, I go pretty much back and forth with this one. This game doesn't matter in terms of the playoffs or anything. Uh, like you said, Brock Purdy's out for the season, so Josh Dobbs, it looks like, is going to get the start in this one. Really, it doesn't matter for either team. I kind of like the Cardinals in that case. Trey McBride is also close to that tight end reception record. I think he's at 107, so he's just one catch behind Brock Bowers. He could easily go out there and get that done. I like the Cardinals -4.5 in this game at home. 49ers don't have anything to play for. They've struggled. They have so many injuries. I expect some guys to not play. I'm going to take the Cardinals to get it done. And disappointing season for both with how, for the Cardinals, I guess maybe at the start of the season you would have liked this, but you had a stretch where you looked like you could have made the playoffs, and now you're really not in it at all. But I'm going to go Cardinals -4.5.
And we were right. They never recovered from that bye week when
Yep.
they were hot.
They were hot going to that bye, and just,
They lost it after that. But last game here, Sunday Night Football Lions at Vikings, the Goodell game. Lions open this game as 2.5 point favorites. Alex Anzalone should be back, hopefully, and not even just the fact that he will be out there would help the Lions so much, but getting guys like Ben Neiman, like Ezekiel Turner, like Quan Alexander was out there for a while. Jamal Adams has been cut now. Getting those other linebackers off the field is huge, and him coming in does that for them. Going to see a lot of Amik Robertson on Justin Jefferson in this game. Amik has been on a tear on the outside. He just needs to survive out there. Justin Jefferson can go get 115, 120 in this game. He just can't go get 165, 170, start pushing 200 yards. That's when it gets dangerous. He's going to get his, but he just can't get too much. I'm very worried about the Lions' pass rush in this game. If Sam Darnold has time, he becomes really dangerous with this offense. If you can get to him and speed him up a little bit, that's how you can beat this offense. Lions have the best offense in football right now. Minnesota has struggled to stop them in recent years. Lions have won 4 straight in this rivalry. Minnesota has not won in Detroit since 2021. Brian Flores in this matchup with Ben Johnson is 0-3 so far. Minnesota does get a lot of sacks and gives up a ton. The Lions need to at least get a stalemate in that battle. They need to either get the same amount of sacks as them or both teams get no sacks. They cannot get 3 sacks on Goff and the Lions can't get to Sam Darnold. That's when they'd be in trouble. They cannot let Minnesota win both of those battles. I like the Lions at home here. They have the more experienced playoff quarterback. I think they're going to clinch the bye and be one game away from a much healthier NFC title game where they can get a guy like Carlton Davis back and they can start to build this defense back from where it was.
yeah, this is obviously the game of the week for the number one overall seed. Huge game. Since 1978, the 5 seeds made the Super Bowl only 3 times. The 1 seed has made it 49 times. The home field advantage is a huge thing. Getting the bye week is a huge thing. We have two of the worst passing defenses in the NFL going up against the two top 5 quarterbacks in terms of passing yards. Jared Goff has 274.9 passing yards per game. Darnold fifth with 259.6 passing yards per game. Jared Goff has played in many important games. He's played in the playoffs before. He's played in a Super Bowl. He is not going to shine away from the spotlight. Where Sam Darnold hasn't really played in a game this important ever. Last week he was great. Still was just a 12 o'clock noon game. This is Sunday Night Football on NBC. Everyone's going to be watching, and I just trust Jared Goff to go out there and get it done. And the Lions offense, we saw last week them dominate that game. They were unstoppable. The 49ers really didn't have any answer. I think they're going to do that again. They've seen Brian Flores' defenses a lot, 3 times in the past 4 years. They know what they're going up against. They know the blitzes that he's going to throw at them. Vikings have given up 243.6 yards per game, fifth worst in the NFL. Um, Both bad passing defenses. versus better passing offenses. I'm going to trust the Lions passing offense over anything. They also have a better rushing attack with Jahmyr Gibbs. He's fantastic. Even Craig Reynolds is still a solid backup. I trust the Lions playmakers to get it done, and I'm also taking Lions minus 2.5.
Over under for this game is 56,
Yeah.
which is just wild to see in the NFL. But we have a 56 point over under and a 19.5 point spread this week, which is just crazy. But
But sometimes in these big games, the defenses stiffen up and
yeah,
it can go low. But
it's
I just
true.
don't see that happening with these two teams.
Yeah, I don't, especially after Monday Night Football. But you will lead us off here. Final best bets of the regular season.
For my first best bet, I'm going to go with. I have pretty decent amount. I'm just going to go with the games that matter for one and don't with the other. So for my first one, it's a big spread, but I'm going to go Buccaneers minus 14. I think their offense is going to have a big game, and the Saints, like I said, averaging 11.5 points since the bye. I don't expect them to put up many points. So Bucks minus 14 is my first best bet.
I got to lead us off with my boys. I got to take the Lions minus 2.5 in the biggest game of the year. I'd be a coward to not do that, unlike some people who were formerly on this podcast. I'm going to take the Lions minus 2.5. I think they get it done. I think they match up more. I think they match up better than people think they do against this Vikings team. And I think the Vikings hype dies out a little bit here, although I do think they will be the best wild card team if they do lose this game.
My second best bet, I'm going to go Commanders minus 6.5. They lost the Cowboys earlier in the season, but I think they know they need a win here. Going into the playoffs on a hot streak. This game's in Dallas. Revenge game, I guess, for Dan Quinn, even though he left them. I think they go out and have a big game. I'm going Commanders minus 6.5.
Okay, my next one here, I'm going to take the Bills minus 3. I'm going to rock with a couple teams here who are in meaningless games, but have deep enough rosters where sitting 6 or 7 guys does not make them worse than the team across from them. I think the Bills are better than the Patriots across the board. Sitting a few guys, I don't think is going to change that very much. Bills are used to playing in the cold weather. Give me the minus 3.
For my last best bet of the regular season, I'm going to go with Seahawks minus 6.5. This game doesn't matter for them. They can't make the playoffs, but getting to 10 wins is huge for Mike McDonald in his first season as an NFL head coach. They also are going up against a division rival who's benching a lot of their guys, so they're going to feel disrespected by that. They want to prove that they should have been in the playoffs. I think they go out and get it done, and I'm taking Seahawks minus 6.5.
Okay, my final best bet is going to be sticking with that theme, Eagles minus 3. I think the Eagles are across the board better than the Giants. I think what any conspiracy about the Giants or Eagles letting them win this game is just not true. I cannot see the Giants possibly fucking up their pick even more. They're not good at home, but they're also not good on the road. And I think the Eagles have enough guys where, like I said, sitting 6 or 7 doesn't make them a horrible team. But that will about do it for this episode of the Engage A podcast. We will be back on Monday or Tuesday to recap this. We will be back on Tuesday to recap this week 18, talk about our playoff scenarios, and then later on in the week, we will have our first playoff preview. So if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit all the links in our description for Spotify, TikTok, social media, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.